From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? It's Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey's here as well. Use the promo code WarChant30 for those of you who are not a member of the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source, which is WarChant.com, for 30 free days of access. That's usually what I always say, right, Corey? That's how I would start the show off, right? Like
typically,
join.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you join now, folks, head over to WarChant.com. It's a one-day special we're running. If you sign up today, Wednesday, for a membership on WarChant.com, you will get 25% off that membership. Plus, you'll get a $75 Adidas e-card. So basically, it's a $75 gift card you would use on Adidas.com. And if you can promise me you'll tell a friend, we'll go ahead and throw in a $25 gift card to Garnet and Gold, the ultimate Florida State outfitter. If you can just tell one friend, we'll throw that in there. So you get the $75 Adidas e-card, the $25 Garnet and Gold card, on top of this 25% off discount. You simply can't beat it, folks.
Man, we are crazy.
I know.
We are crazy with what we're giving these folks.
Just give it all away. Just give it all away. Hey, I'd like $75 to spend on Adidas.com. I need
no lie. Or get to go to Garnet Gold. That would be cool, too.
Yeah, for sure. Again, we're proudly presented to you by Zaxby's. Want to send a shout-out to B. Watt Knoll, tweets at Wake Up War Chant. I live in upstate South Carolina, the Greenville area, and Popeyes just moved to my town. I tried it once. I'll never be back. Zaxby's is the GOAT and always will be.
Zaxby's for life.
Bah, bah. So thank you, B. Watt Knoll. He also goes by the pseudonym Auden Taters on the Twitter machine.
All right.
So fantastic. Check it out. The sensation thing is still running. Delicious. I promise. Also, programming note, we'll have Phil Steele on later in the program today. And then the Friday podcast is actually going to be an adaptation of a Thursday live YouTube chat that not only Corey and I will be doing, but also five-star Irish O'Fell. So all three of us taking all your questions, but you have to be a member of WarChant.com. Post your questions on the Tribal Council. We'll get to them on Thursday, and then we'll go ahead and roll it out for you folks on Friday. So all that said, we were out at practice again, and Corey, I've never been the kind to, I always look forward to the summer when I was a kid. Obviously, everybody wants to get out of school, right? But I never got to the point where I would just like X days off a calendar and be like, oh, only 32 more days left of school. But I printed out the schedule for preseason practice, and every single day I come home and I scratch off a day, and it brings me such joy because it just means we're one day closer to the season, but also one day closer to practices starting at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. as things progress. So we got one more early practice today. Then we can take a day off, and then they'll be practicing at 2 in the afternoon for 3 days. So, God, that's going to be amazing. Amazing.
It's
Quality of life.
That's going to be awesome to have 2 o'clock practices. And then I know they go to Bradenton, and they're up at the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
But then I think when they get back from Bradenton, don't they get some night practices coming our way?
They do 7 p.m., 6:15, 6:30.
Gosh, Beautiful.
Sexy, man. I wish they could just do that all the time, but apparently they're not going to, and whatever. We were out at practice on Tuesday, first full day in pads, which means we should have all sorts of exciting stuff to share with you. But they did a one-on-one contact drill, which was surrounded by a wall of humanity, which we weren't able to really film all that well. Then defense immediately went into the IPF and pretty much spent most of the media portion inside the IPF. So we were kind of relegated to watching the offensive line, a couple of the skill position guys. Were there any big-time observations? I know people want us to share, every single morsel that we see, and I'm all about it. But, there's not too many other things that kind of shine to me or flash to me on Tuesday. Did anything stand out to the coracle?
No, Cam McDonald had a really nice catch on I guess you'd call it a slant. Ball was up and behind him, but he snagged it. Dugans was a big fan of that, and Bryles. And my man Gavin. We talk about Gavin. He's not forgotten necessarily, but he's not the first name that comes up when you talk about this receiving core. obviously you got Terry, and then you got the slot guys, and you got Warren Thompson, who's had a nice start to camp, and Jordan Young. Jordan Young's pretty impressive too, physically, just watching him run. But Gavin, again, we'll talk about it until he's probably 50 years old. He's got all the physical tools to be something, and he's made some really nice. He's run some good routes from what I've seen. Now again, it's all on air. He's a big dude. He had some nice moments, but then again, he had a play when we were watching against Air, made his move outside, then back inside on a post route, and ball was right there, a little bit over his helmet in the end zone, and it just bats off his hands. And we just got to get that cleaned up because my man has some tools to be a dude that's hard to cover, but he's got the little details of actually catching the football, especially on deep routes. Got to figure out a way to do that. He's too talented physically not to figure this thing out.
I like how you talk about catching the football as a detail, as a wide receiver.
Minor detail there for a wide receiver.
Yeah, so I did see that play as well. I didn't even see you going that angle. I thought this was going to be a very uplifting Keith Gavin segment.
But that's the thing. That's the maddening thing about him, I guess, is that you look at him, you know how physical he is, you know how fast he is, you know how big he is, and then it just hasn't all come together yet. And this is his last chance. He's the veteran of the group. He's the senior. Hopefully this is the year that it all comes together for him.
Hopefully. Otherwise, if
not, he's going to get passed up.
I mean, has he not?
I mean, he's still running with the ones. I still think that, he runs on the opposite side of Warren Thompson. I think Thompson has kind of taken all of Tamori and Terry's reps. So, and doing well with them from what we can tell. Again, I have to stress, he's quicker than you guys think, Warren Thompson. He's not just a big body. He's got some quickness to him. I think Jordan Young might be a guy that Gavin has to hold off, honestly. Like that I didn't realize he's as big as he is, like height-wise, but he's almost as tall as Gavin, maybe as tall, and, quite honestly, almost as fast. Or faster, maybe. He's just a really fluid, impressive athlete, but he's not done it before. He's never really played in a game. Gavin has. He does have some experience, and you want to lean on those guys. You want seniors to be able to have big years, their senior years, and know what they're doing and catch the football. So hopefully he can get it going. But if he doesn't, yeah, man, he might be on the bench. Like they're not going to. I know Bryles said what he said about the depth of wide receiver. They have too many good guys in this group for them to roll out a guy that doesn't live up to his potential. They'll pass him by. Willie Taggart did not recruit Keith Gavin. Kendall Bryles didn't even know who he was till about 7 months ago. So they don't feel like they owe him anything. So if Gavin wants to earn a starting spot and have a lot of production, he has to go do it because he's not going to be given it.
Yeah, I really genuinely root for success for all these kids. I want to see them all try to live out their dreams and make it to where they want to go. But ultimately, just you get to a certain point where you no longer depend on kids. But you hope they can figure out a way to turn it around, and I hope he can. And the thing is, and if it doesn't work out, to your point, there's so much depth, there's so much talent wide receiver that if Keith Gavin does not fulfill his potential, his physical gifts, his stature, his strength, his speed, his just his overall physical presence, it's a bummer for Florida State, obviously, but I don't think it won't be like, we won't sit here in 13 years and be like, well, if Keith Gavin, remember that kid from Crawfordville, if he would have just been able to live up to that vast potential he had, imagine what that season would have been. Just kind of part and parcel of the business these days. Not all of them are going to produce for you. Hopefully they can, but if they can't, hopefully they just at least get their diploma and are a good teammate. And it seems like
I should say that I've probably seen him catch, I don't know, 80, 60. He's probably had 60, 70 passes thrown his way in the last 4 or 5 days that I've gotten to watch. I've seen him only drop 2. So it's not like he's batting them all around like he's got, spoons for hands. Like he's caught most of them. It was just that one in particular that you saw too. It's like, oh man, that you finish it. That you didn't even come close to catching it. It looked like he was a DB trying to bat it away, and you just, as a senior, and the way Dugans reacted to it too was, to me, kind of telling. Like, oh, he kind of threw his arms up, like, oh man, really? Still, kind of, that's me reading body language, but that's what I got out of it.
That's Ira's department. You don't read body language.
I'm not great at it. Exactly right. I'm not great at it. I think every woman that sees me is interested. but that's me not being a real good reader of body language.
Speaking of reading things out there, maybe not body language, but just reading, perhaps read option plays. We would sit here and joke so much, and not really joke, but almost kind of plead with the great Walt Bell. Hey, man, how about some WildCam? The guy, just hike it to him, let him do what he's got to do. There's only two things that really kind of quote unquote stood out to me. Offensive line is one of them. We'll get to that here in a moment. But I think they did some drills where basically you just had shotgun set, one back, and the quarterback, obviously. And in this crazy development, Corey, the snap went directly to the running back. And I'm being very facetious here, obviously, but it's just bizarre that in the midst of 13 weeks of a 7-loss season, of ups and downs that program had, I mean, they mixed in what they called it Rhino against Clemson, where they put like Marvin and Robert Cooper in the backfield. I think maybe against Notre Dame at one point, maybe in pregame warmups, or maybe actually in the game itself. But at some point, they were taking snaps under center. You're like, wow, this is crazy. They're trying to adapt or add a wrinkle. But just something like the fact we never saw them do drills that involve just snapping it to the running back, and then the running back ends up, does the read option thing where he tries to do the mesh point and keeps it and runs. So just to see something as minor as that being implemented or emphasized or being drilled, again, just these little sort of victories you have to take when you're only being able to watch a very small portion of day number 5 when you're still, 20 days away from the season.
Yeah, and I do think there'll be some to that. I do think that there will be some wild Cam, maybe some wild Travis J. Who knows? Wild DJ. I mean, there's a lot of options there. They got a lot of skill players that can pull that off. But yeah, it's good. It's just attention to detail. Like, yeah, okay, we're gonna probably use this at some point. How many snaps do you think they'll do wild Cam this whole season? 11, 7? Like, not many. Obviously, it might be something used once a game. But it's still something you got to practice. You can't just assume on the day of the game, hey, man, take a snap and read it and then, keep the ball and go. Like, that's something you got to work at. And they know moving ahead, looking toward the future, that's going to be something they probably use. So let's drill it at least once or twice a week in preseason. And so he can run it when it's actually game time.
Do you want to go ahead and set the over-under on WildCam direct snaps running back at 11?
I think that's so wild Cam or just wild running back?
Wild running back, yeah.
Because Kalen might get some too. I would set that at I think 11's too low. I'm going to look more at like 14 or 15 because I think it's something they're going to look to do a lot, and I have no inside knowledge at all here. I think that's something they're going to look to do at least some of the time in short yardage.
Well, and I also think too, to the point that I tried to make the other day about when this offense. When the Baylor offense back in the day would get a first down, it usually resulted in a touchdown. I just think it's one of those things where if they do run it once and they get 6-7 yards on it, maybe the very next play they come right back to it again and then get the first down. So like right there in one drive, you already got 2. So
yeah, and I also think he'll have obviously some plays where Akers can throw the ball. Where you set up him and then you set up a trick play with one of your running backs, probably Akers actually throwing a pass.
Jimbo Fisher had Cam Akers throw the ball more than Walt Bell and Willie Taggart did. Things I thought I never would say a year ago.
Wonder how UMass is looking.
Maybe I should reach out to him. See if we can get the great Walt Bell on the program. Talk about the Minutemen. You know who knows probably everything in and out about the Minutemen is Phil Steele, who will be joining us here in a moment. He gives us a pretty good little breakdown of Boise State as well. But it was just crazy to hear him kind of rattle off all the players on Florida State's roster that, I mean, let's be honest, there's not a lot of household names on this team right now. And it's weird when you interview somebody. Like I'm interviewing Phil Steele to talk about Florida State, and it's like I live here. I literally cover this team every single day. And I'm going to call a guy who lives like in Pennsylvania or something to tell me about the team I'm covering. But it's kind of cool to get some outside perspective. You'll hear about that here in a moment. One other thing really to kind of touch on, we're not going to sit here and run the clock out. We don't get paid by the second or the minute, and you guys don't get paid for listening to us any longer than you do. But the offensive line, it's a continuing theme that we're going to keep an eye on. It's just there's just such more of a and listen, I'm the guy that, doesn't care about the whole rah, positive, let's put our hands around each other and love each other. I think football is a tough freaking game played by tough dudes, and I wasn't tough enough to play football, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm some sort of crazy dude. But just to see like the way that Randy Clements reinforces positivity with these guys, and it's not like faux, I'm going to coach you up, everybody in here is a special person in their own unique way, and I love all of you, but just doing the quick pointers on these guys and then keeping things moving, getting the reps in. And he doesn't strike me as a guy that's, again, he doesn't seem like a guy that's needs to be nice to guys to curry favor with them. He's going to be honest with these guys. But the fact that every single rep, it seems that he's picking out whether it's 5 guys working on the boards or 2 guys hitting a sled, it's always a clap pretty much. And, I shouldn't say always. I would say like 80% of the time it's a clap and attaboy, that's the way we want to see it. And then, 2 out of 10 times it's like, all right, do it again. First step's got to be better. First step's got to be your right foot. Do it again. Things like that. So it's just, and you hear the offensive linemen encouraging each other and talking to each other, which is something you did not see or hear at all last year. It was a very somber unit, and by all means it should have been, because they constantly were getting abused and probably weren't hearing good things in film practice. But for now, without the indignity of a loss against them, this seems to be a unit that has confidence in themselves and is being taught well, or at least is executing what they're being taught at a pretty good level right now, which is an encouraging thing.
Yeah, he's such a different guy than Greg Fry, but obviously the guy before Greg Fry. It's just completely night and day, the amount of encouragement. And there's plenty of ways to coach a offensive line. There's not one right way. The only way you can do it. Again, Rick Trickett has a ring, and he was not easy on those guys, and they won a national championship. So there's different ways to do it. But I do think in this instance, when you literally had, they saw the tweets, they know the numbers, they were in the games. They saw the sun when they got knocked on their backs and were looking straight up at the sun. Like, they know how bad they were last year. So you've got to be built back up. You can't just be, if you keep getting told how bad you are, no, do it again, dummy. Do it again, dummy. You suck. Get out of here. Next guy. Like, if that keeps happening, you just crush everyone's confidence.
Not that Greg
they're
Fry
not in a
that.
place right now where they can handle that.
Yeah. Not that Greg Fry was doing that. Just to clarify that.
No, but Greg Fry wasn't a rah-rah guy either. He wasn't a guy that's like, there you go, Jawan. That's what I'm talking about. He wasn't that guy either. It was all right. It was when he talked, typically from the portions that I saw or paid attention to, when he talked, it was to correct, and it wasn't. He wasn't horses talking to him, but he was direct, and he didn't really give a lot of, let's say, positive reinforcement. That's all Randy Clements does, as far as I can tell. Even when he's getting on to a guy, it feels like he's saying it in such a tone that they feel like they did well. Like, at least when I watch it, he's like, yeah, good, but here's what you got to do. It's never, gosh darn it, man, do it again. Blind up and do it again. Get out of here. I can't win with you. You're sloppy. All that stuff. Then again, this is the guy two guys ago. This is Greg Fry's predecessor. But that's the stuff that can beat down a guy. And when you lose confidence in anything and you get told how bad you are, you're not any good, some guys can rise above it. Great players can. Some guys can't. They just get completely they're done for. And I think that, last year they were, not only were they not any good, but they were beaten down. And again, it's not that they were beaten down by Greg Fry. They were beaten down by everything. And this is a guy that really seems, devoted to lifting them up, even if it's false. And I don't think it's false. I don't think he'd tell them good job if it wasn't. But anytime they do something well, anytime he says good job, perfect, there you go, that kind of thing. I think that helps, man. I think that helps 19 and 20-year-olds, especially ones that have been maligned as much as these poor guys have been over the last 12 to 18 months.
I wish they weren't playing music at practice so you folks that watch the raw practice video could actually hear this stuff, because if you don't hear it, you might think that, with the way that Corey and I are talking about him being positive and uplifting these guys, that it's a very, just like, your JV, like the YMCA coach lifting up the spirits of an 8-year-old who's hasn't hit a bucket all season long. Like, no, I mean, he's a rough, gruff guy, no nonsense sort of dude. And And it's not, making these guys feel too good about themselves. It's like, all right, good job. On to the next one. Next rep. Let's go. Just, I don't know. It's the little things that you see like this that I think you have to kind of cling on to if you want to feel optimistic about the team. And it's not forcing the issue. This isn't trying to make a mountain out of a molehill or something. I think this is a real tangible thing that you're seeing that will pay dividends once the season does start. So
it's also a really fast. The pace is really fast. Like they have a GA that literally after every drill, as soon as it's over, as soon as Randy Clements is done saying, good job, hips, perfect. He goes, all right, run back, pace, line up, pace. Like they're going so quick that, and they have to because that's what they plan to do. Again, it's just the pace of the repetitions too. They're getting, I would guess, probably 25% more reps than they did even last season when they went really fast.
Absolutely.
In preseason practice,
Yeah, absolutely. That GA is like half comeback coach. He to Corey's point is like, all right, back, next rep, and he's like literally kicking the
every team
boards.
must say it 150 times.
Yeah, and he's kicking the boards.
It's crazy.
So he's like kicking the boards and lining them back up as they start running back to get their next rep. So it's a constant movement of stuff.
Before they're even done pushing the guy where they're supposed to go, he's saying back, next. It's crazy. I wonder what his dreams are like. Like, do you think in his dreams he's just saying that over and over again?
He works at a deli counter. It's a very busy deli counter, and is chopping up meat and is next. Serve the next number. Corey, what's going on warchant.com right now if people hop on? What can they read from your musings?
I wrote a story about Amari Gaynor. Think he has a chance. You can't quite get a firm grasp of where he is on the rotation and if he's going to start or not, especially with Kendo being out here lately. But I just get the impression he's going to be a big part of their defense. Mark Snyder seems to really like him. And, I think he's going to be – he's 6'3" and can run. He's ferocious when he gets to a ball carrier, like almost to a fault, like they have to tell him to slow down in practice. I just think that guy is kind of a wild card. So I wrote about him. And then Ira – it's supposed to have a column up, but we'll see.
He will, man. When I don't
know. I don't want to say, hey, go to warchant.com for Ira's column because I don't know if it'll be written by then. But he was saying he was writing a column, so hopefully it will be up. It'll be up at some point. I just don't know if it'll be up when you're hearing this, dear listener.
So there's a great opening act of Corey Clark, and then possibly the main act takes the stage, and Ira Schofel writing a column. So you have all that to look forward to on warchant.com. If you're not a member, again, this is probably the last good shot of signing up this season to get the best bang for your buck. If you sign up today, Wednesday, $75 Adidas e-card, a $25 Garnet and Gold gift card, and a 50% off discount on the annual membership. So basically the real kicker right now is that they're going to throw in the $25 Garnet and Gold gift card if you sign up today. So go ahead, go to warchant.com, sign up for it, take a quick breather. We're coming right back with Phil Steele.
Unlike fanny packs, bowl cuts, and troll dolls, the sensation is back, only at Zaxby's. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich features hand-breaded chicken, Asian slaw, wonton strips, and citrus vinaigrette, and both are served with an egg roll. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich meal for a limited time only at Zaxby's. And skip the line when you order ahead on the Zaxby's app or on Zaxby's.com.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, all Knowles, every day. Now back to Corey and Aslan.
Back at it, folks. Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. Very special guest joining us today on the show, Phil Steele. He of Preseason Magazine fame, the most accurate magazine over the last 21 years. Can't start the season until you get one of these in your hands. Phil, this is becoming like the War and Peace of college athletics every year. This thing keeps getting thicker and better.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, 25th anniversary for it, too. The first one started out black and white newsprint, was about 180 pages long. Now we're full color, 352 pages. And this year, talked to 110 of the 130 FBS head coaches out there, spending about an hour with each one going over their teams with them.
Good Lord. All right, well, let's start with the Florida State program, which is of great importance. And adoration for the folks listening to the show. It's crazy to read a preview of this program in your magazine. You've been pretty kind to this program throughout the years, even when they kind of stumbled towards the end of Bobby Bowden's tenure. You always seem to have a bit of an optimistic outlook on their season coming up. But I keep seeing the word improvement, most improved, throughout any segment, throughout the entire sort of preview you have for this program. I guess maybe offensively, where do you see the room for growth and your sort of belief in the optimism that this is going to be one of the more improved offenses in the nation? Is it Kendall Browse? Is it more than just that?
Yeah, it's more than that, just that. Generally, when a first-year head coach comes in, there's a learning curve. They have to learn the players' strengths and weaknesses. Players have to learn new schemes. And when I talked to Coach Taggart this year and went over the team with him, he said that last year he felt the players might have felt a little betrayed by Jimbo Fisher leaving them. They were a little uneasy with the fact that he made basically a lateral move over to Texas A&M. And he felt that this year there was no such reaction. All the players were bought into the program, and they were pretty deep across the board. So now Coach Taggart's new systems are in. The players know him. He knows the players. It's a deeper team. They get a player like Kalen LeBourne back at running back, someone who, when I talked to Coach Taggart last year, went over the team, thought would be on poise for a breakout season, then got injured and out for the year, week 2. He joins Cam Akers and Anthony Grant on offense. I do like the addition of Kendall Browse as offensive coordinator. I think he'll get the most out of these QBs, and let's face it, they got adequate quarterback play last year. Offensive line's been a question mark with Florida State for about the last 5 years, but should be better than last year, really can only be better. And defensively, I like the way these guys look, especially coming off the bus. You're looking at Kane Doe and Wilson up front, along with Robinson, then at the star linebacker, Nasruddin. In the secondary, Asante Samuel, Akeem Dent, the true freshman coming in, I think will start right away. And then Jaden Lars would be. So this is a very talented Florida State team, one which went through a growth curve last year. They're coming off their first losing season since 1976, 16 returning starters coming back. And I look at the schedule this year, I could see this team getting potentially close to a double-digit win. So I think it's going to be a much better year for Florida State this year.
You've talked about it, 25 years of doing this preview magazine. I mean, have you seen anything in your past experience where you've seen a program? You talked about that year 1 to year 2 jump with the coaches. It's just one of those standard things that seems to happen no matter what, or are there the pieces in place that you mentioned with just the talent in place that there's no reason to believe that there won't be a significant jump and improvement for this program?
Yeah, I think if you talk to any head coach out there, and I've talked to a lot throughout the years, when they hit their second year, if you ask them how they feel, they're like, oh, we are light years ahead of last year. I mean, now that things are in place, players know what they're doing, and listen to any second-year head coach's interview across the country, and I've been doing it for 25 years. It's the same thing. Sort of like when you hire a defensive coordinator. All defensive coordinators say, we're going to run a more aggressive attacking defense. Well, with the second-year head coaches, they pretty much say, we definitely have a much better grasp of the situation, and the players know everything. So, and I've seen great improvement throughout the years. Look at what Scott Frost did at UCF a couple years ago in his second year, taking the team to an undefeated season. And I like the talent Florida State has. And sometimes in a season like last year when things aren't going right, maybe the players aren't completely bought in, especially late in the year. Maybe you lose a little faith in the coaching staff. But I do feel they're bought in this year, and I think with a good start against teams like Boise and ULM, maybe an upset road win at Virginia, then all of a sudden Florida State's playing with that confidence and swagger that they used to.
Phil Steele joining us here on Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's. Phil, obviously X's and O's matters a lot, but Jimmy's and Joe's seems to take precedent in this day and age. You look at what Clemson and Alabama bring in and year out. Florida State was close to that sort of production when it comes to recruiting. Maybe a lot of those kids didn't work out. Is there enough special, I don't want to say generational, but is there enough special talent on this roster beyond a Marvin Wilson and Tamari and Terry, maybe Cam Akers? I mean, do you see anybody that is all ACC caliber or potential All-American potential?
Yeah, absolutely. As mentioned, Marvin Wilson up front, the nose tackle spot. Janarius Robinson's a guy who I think has NFL caliber talent at defensive end. Kane Doe is a guy that can get there. I think next year we'll be talking about him for the NFL. Nasruddin at the linebacker spot is a guy that is really a freak of an athlete. If you talk to NFL guys about him, he can get sideline to sideline, and he's got that size at 6'4", 215. He's going to benefit from another year of growth and experience. Dent, I think, is going to step in as a true freshman and be a star right away. Asante Samuel would be in the secondary. Even a Levante Taylor, if he can, possibly get there this year. And then offensively, Trey McKitty at tight end. I'm watching him on the Mackey list. I think he's got the potential to get there. And Terry, as you touched on, and any of the three running backs, Akers, LeBourne, or Grant.
Kind of looking forward ahead now here to the Boise State game. There's so much riding on it. I mean, it has to be maybe the most important. I mean, I don't want to say most important opener for Florida State ever. That 2017 one against Bama was kind of crucial. But for Willie Taggart and the second season, it just feels like if they're not able to get past Boise with a win this season, could maybe get off to a bad start, obviously, but then not be able to kind of recuperate. Looking at Boise, I know they lost their quarterback, Brett Rippin. So what do you know about Boise? Because, I mean, you're rattling off guys from Florida State's roster like you've been covering them here in Tallahassee for the last 25 years. So can you give us any insight into what Boise brings and what you see as being their strengths?
Yeah, Boise's going to bring a top-notch defense this year. They've got 7 starters back from a unit that allowed just 22 points per game. Up front, David Moa is a big defensive tackle. He's 6'2", 306. They've got a stud defensive end in Curtis Weaver, who is a pass rush specialist. He's someone that Florida State's offensive line's got to keep an eye on. He had 9.5 sacks last year. When you get to the secondary, Nawani, the safety, is an NFL caliber safety. He's 6'2", 208. He's got NFL potential with his size. And they've got a couple other good players in the secondary, in Avery Williams and Kaniho. Then you look at them offensively. Now, I'm projecting a true freshman to start here, and Hank Bachmeier. I think he'll beat out Chase Cord and Jalen Henderson. And Bachmeier is a rare talent for Boise. He was the number 14 rated quarterback out of high school. Keep in mind, Rippon started all 4 years, including as a freshman, and that's why I think he'll end up going with Bachmeier in this case. Best receiver, John Hightower, is a guy that's 6'3", 175. He's got elite speed and size, plus he's intelligent, so he's somebody that you got to keep an eye on. They've got an outstanding tight end in John Bates. Up front on the offensive line, they've got 3 NFL-caliber offensive linemen, in Eric Quivetto, John Molchin, and Ezra Cleveland. So this is a talented Boise State team. I think most folks are going to look at the roster and say, hey, you lost your quarterback, your 1,000-yard rusher, your top 2 receivers from last year. It's going to be a rebuilding year. I don't see it that way. I think they could be the top group of 5 team, but I do expect them to lose at least one game this year, and that's the game against Florida State right out of the box. I think Florida State's hungry enough to handle a young quarterback making his first road start. I like the heat and humidity of Florida versus a team from Boise, Idaho, especially late August as it is. And I like the experience and hunger level of Florida State for this one. So I like the Seminoles to win the opener against Boise and get the season off to a good start.
That roar you heard was coming from Leon County and surrounding areas in the Panhandle when you just picked Florida State there. Phil, so are you more comfortable almost going ahead and saying, picking Florida State to beat Boise in week 1 than you would picking out a game, in the middle of October? Like, is there any paralysis by analysis in terms of the amount of stuff you're looking at where sometimes it's just easier to thin slice and be like, this is what I see in Florida State, this is what I see in Boise in the opener. Haven't seen them play a game at all this season, obviously, because it's the opener, but I feel good about it because of this reason.
Yeah, I think in this case, I definitely do like the opener. In fact, I wrote an article on ESPN where I gave out 6 early plays for the first weekend of the season, and one of them was Florida State over Boise State. Anytime you get a young quarterback going on the road for a first start, that's always a tough experience. Taking on a hungry defense like Florida State, loaded with athletes, it's not the type of athletes that Boise State normally plays. So as good as their stats have been, as good as those offensive linemen are, I think they are going to struggle a little bit with the situation, the heat, the humidity, and it's a good reason to like Florida State. Plus, just the hunger. Normally, when a Power 5 team takes on a Group of 5 team, there's a little look past. You're not really concentrating on the game. Here, I think Florida State or Boise State will have Florida State's full focus.
The last question we got before we get you off here, Phil. Just looking at the ACC, obviously everybody is pretty much competing for second place behind Clemson. You do have FSU, though, finishing second in the Atlantic. With the 5-7 record last year, the teams they lost to, obviously they lost several in-division games. Are teams like Syracuse and North Carolina State, do you see them taking a step back, or is it more so Florida State taking a step forward?
I think it's a big step forward for Florida State and a little step back for Syracuse as well. When you look at Syracuse, they're a team that was coming off 4 and 4-win seasons and bumped all the way up to 10 last year. I've got a section in the magazine called the Stock Market Indicator, which says teams that do take that sort of peak usually trend down a little bit. They're also replacing their quarterback this year, although Tommy DeVito definitely got some action last season, and they've got a pass rush now. Syracuse got 43 sacks last year, but I see them taking a little step back. A tougher schedule than they had last year. Last year, I think the 10 wins product of a fairly soft schedule. And with NC State, once again, you have questions at the quarterback spot. You wonder a little bit who's going to replace Ryan Finley, an NFL-caliber QB. It's going to be between Matthew McKay and Devin Leary. You look at them up front, they lose their 1,000-yard rusher. They lose their top 2 receivers, both 1,000-yard receivers from last year. Dave Dorn will replace him and do a good job. I remember talking to Dave Dorn last year and going over the defensive line. They had just lost 4 guys in the NFL, and he said, we're going to be pretty good here. I think we'll be close to last year, and statistically they were. So I think those are the biggest threats for Florida State, but I think Florida State makes a big enough jump to pass both those teams.
Folks, follow Phil Steele on Twitter, PhilSteele042. Also, this magazine's available in all bookshelves, I imagine, these days right now, right, Phil?
That's right. Walmart, Books A Million, CVS, Target, Walgreens, Publix. And if you don't see it there, it is sold out in a lot of places this time of year. You can go to the website, which is philsteele.com. That's STEELE.com. And when you go there, you can order the hard copy or download it to your iPad, iPhone, Android device, Kindle, or even your computer.
You've done a couple of these interviews, it sounds like, Phil.
I think we're going slightly over 250 so far this year. So, yeah, a couple this season.
Fantastic. Phil Steele, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Hey, a lot of fun talking football with you today. Really enjoyed it.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.